Okay, cool. Make sure I'm live. Says I'm live. Okay, cool. If the audio's good, just maybe say so in the chat. I know people are just coming in. We get started in a second. If you don't mind pressing the like button while you wait, it would be appreciated. Okay, cool. Looks like I am live. Let me just minimize this. Just pop out the chat. Okay, cool. Yeah, any ticker requests, throw them in the chat box. I'll get them to them when I'm done going over my watch list. Let me just make sure this is working. Yep. Cool. So, yep, likes appreciated, shares, all that. Firstly, shout out to sponsor Weex. I gotta ask first if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Well, one of them's definitely wrong. Let me just put the ref in the chat box. Should be in the description if you're watching the replay. Check them out though, supporting the show. I always say it's a tough sell. It's like, are most people really gonna move off the exchange they've been using for 10 years? Probably not, but at least throw them a sign up and maybe check them out. Throw a little bit on there at minimum just as a backup and check them out. So thanks to the sponsor. With that, we'll get into it. Bitcoin, unfortunately, less euphoric day than last week. I mean, really, Bitcoin hasn't changed, I guess, from last week. It's really the alts that are taking a shit. But, last week we were in the exact same spot. So Bitcoin's just still struggling in this red box. For anyone that doesn't know, doesn't watch the show, red box is just a big ask. We've had the same ask here since late 24, since the election. So this same ask kind of created this dip and then came up, created this flag, and we ate into it, and to be honest, I kind of thought we'd advance further. It's a little bit annoying that we haven't. Alts did have a good run, so can't totally complain. But the problem with Bitcoin stalling out is kind of what we see today, which is like if Bitcoin isn't pumping, and this is where like my beef with the all only bros always is like a lot of people that think they missed the boat on Bitcoin, whatever that even means. I don't even know what that means because we just made an all-time high last week, so you didn't miss much of a boat. But even if you're all in alts, even if you don't like Bitcoin, whatever. You want this to go up because what you see today is like, alts ran, they got extended, and then, Bitcoin didn't instill any confidence today. Granted, Bitcoin didn't really dump today hard, but he did roll over in the morning, and then that kind of resulted in just like a nasty alt dump. So not much to say on Bitcoin, really. Still dealing with this ask. There's still the same ask is still there. And as long as we're in this flag, it's still bullish. The only thing I'll say on Bitcoin, I guess, is just if we do get a dip, that's severe, I would look to, I don't know, anyone that uses Anchored View app. TradingView added this annoying ass bands multiplier. I don't even know what it is, and just unilaterally added this bullshit to every single one of my things. Super annoying, so I have to go through every single chart. I love TradingView, but they just do stuff that's like, why? Like, why are you adding this to my chart? Didn't ask for it. Anyway, a little rant there. I just hate chart clutter, so excuse me for doing this live on the stream. It's like my OCD is just killing me. Don't know why they do that, but yeah, thanks to Mo there. Likes are appreciated. I know people are just coming in. Likes, I would say retweets, but shares, whatever. And then again, shout out to sponsor. So if this does dip, this is where I'd be looking on Bitcoin, which is the Smart Money View app and the daily B band. That's what those two lines are. White line is anchored from here, which is where I would say Smart Money would have got in. If they weren't not in, what's the point where Smart Money would ape? It would be on this breakout, in my opinion, so that's where I anchored from. And you can see it worked, perfect touch, perfect touch, perfect touch, perfect touch. I was hoping that we actually pump higher and this would kind of walk up and then maybe we get a perfect touch up here leading to a new all-time high. I don't want the big flush already. That kind of would suck and kind of put a damper in our plans, but you always want to plan for the worst. So that's kind of my dip location on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's kind of boring. Not much to talk about there. What's more interesting for me is XRP, which had a pretty nasty spill today. I noticed at like midnight last night that XRP was probably going to have a spill. I'll even start on XRP BTC. The reason for that is because if you take off your bag bias, which is hard for everyone to do, myself included, and you just look at XRP BTC, as much as it does look great on the monthly, this big flag, and it saved itself, you were at 90 on the daily RSI, so you're about as extended as you're going to get, 91, and you were running into 6-year resistance. We haven't gotten above this level here, all over. Haven't gotten above it since 2019, and that was on a dump. We haven't really pumped above that. It doesn't even exist on this chart, I guess. You'd have to go back to the 2017 pump. So this is really the resistance. You know, people were talking about all-time high on the dollar pair, which we technically did break, I guess. But this is the real resistance, and we didn't even come close to breaking it. We came into it super extended. So general rule of thumb in trading, I know this is like super basic. I know this isn't groundbreaking, but if you come into resistance super overbought, you know, don't expect for it to break. And if it does, don't expect follow through. So I was kind of ignoring this because I have a big bag and I wanted it to go up. And then at midnight last night, I kind of realized, like, oh shit, like if I take off the bag bias goggles, this is probably going to dump. I trimmed a little bit of XRP. I'm like, oh, I'll sell the rest tomorrow, you know, if it looks bad. And then, of course, I woke up to like a 10% dump candle. So that kind of sucks. Trading's hard, right? TA is easy, trading's hard, or TA is easier, at least for me. So what to do now if you're in, like most of us are. I only trimmed part of my bag. To me, it really comes down to Bitcoin. I will say there's a smart money view app on Ripple as well. I'll just do it in real time. So for people that don't understand the smart money view app thing, you know, where would I buy XRP if I was not in, if I was just like flat? Well, obviously for me, it's above this 2.4 level. There was a POC there. I don't have it marked off, or I guess that's probably why I have this white line here. And it's just a POC for this whole range. So for me, it was kind of obvious you had this inverse head and shoulder structure, and then you had the POC, and then you had a clear breakout. So where would I anchor my view app from? I'd anchor it from there. Usually I'd go on a lower time frame to get it. Change the color of my thing too. Trading view is just weird, man. I don't know why it does certain stuff that it does, but so I'd anchor from there. I'd actually zoom it in and make it even more precise if I was just doing this on my own charts. So just a little real time. And sure enough, we came down here. I put in the Discord, I guess it's the Towns now. Check out Towns in the description. If you join it, there's no ref link, so maybe say Mag sent you. Maybe Forrest will throw me a little ref fee or something if you say that. But in the Towns, I was saying this is my level 3.1, and that was why. So you had confluence here for me, which was the 3.1 smart money view app, and then the green line here is the 12 EMA. 12 and 26 are the red and green. These are just, you know, these are somewhat arbitrary EMAs, to be honest. These are the ones that were put on Coinbase like years and years ago. I don't know if it still is on the Coinbase front end. But one of my favorite traders has a system around these EMAs, especially the 12 in particular. And it's just a great, I've noticed that just through trial and error, even though I'm not a big EMA guy, I think they're generally arbitrary. You can set, you know, this looks so perfect on the 12 EMA, and then if it dips down a little lower, I could set a 20 EMA and say, look, the 20 EMA is so perfect. So I don't love using EMAs and MAs too much as support and resistance in general because I think they're arbitrary. But I will say I think the 12 EMA, I've just seen it work so much. And when I say work, I just mean it's a good sort of like if you do have a big extension and you're kind of in no man's land, which I would say we kind of are on XRP. It's a nice just visual guide of like, okay, if we can hold this, then it looks good for a bull flag. A lot of people, myself included, will use a fib, and they'll say if it's above the 382, it's a bull flag. If it's above the 50%, it's still healthy, and then, you know, above the, if you go down to the 618 or 786, then you'd expect more of a lower high on the bounce. So meaning if this comes all the way down here, it's not necessarily bearish, but you'd expect lower high, and you'd expect it to be more of a drawn out pattern versus just going straight back up to the high. So for now, we're kind of fine as far as I'm concerned. We're, you know, holding the smart money view up. This white line that I just showed you how to do, that's my most important level. But having the confluence of the 12 EMA and still being above the 382 is just like all signals to me that it's not a huge red flag. But really, a lot of alt charts, I'm not going to focus too much on alt charts this week. I'm probably going to honestly get right into your tickers. So anyone that does have tickers, throw them in the chat box if you want me to go over them. Probably be a quicker episode today. So throw your tickers in. Likes also appreciated, even if you're watching on the replay a day or two later. Throwing the like does help get the word out. But the reason I'm not going to go over too much on the alt charts is just because I really think it comes down to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin holds this flag and pumps, right, even a small pump, even if we just pump up to, like I was saying for us earlier today, even if we just get up to like the daily B-band here, which is this green line, and we just get up to 26, 27 and just show that we're still grinding up instead of potentially retracing, then I think alts are going to be fine. So I think where XRP is in particular is actually a great spot to bounce if Bitcoin holds. If Bitcoin doesn't hold, then like I just don't care much about alt support. But I like this area. If I was not at all in XRP, and actually in my case I did sell 10% of my XRP bag up here, and I actually bought it back here. So I'm already back long fully. I might regret that, but you know, I just didn't trim enough for me to really care. I want to stay out. So that's kind of my stance on XRP. I'll really quick go Sol. Big thing to say on Sol is just that we do have a weekly trend change. So again, this stuff is bullish, but not necessarily short-term bullish. It's more medium, long-term bullish. We have a low, lower high, higher low, and we talk about all the time, like this is your higher high, this is your trend change. Not a ton of follow through on this yet. So, but anything below, above this high is just another higher low. So we can come all the way down. Some people do a lot, myself included, is you get into long, it starts going your way, and then you start, picking out your 1 hour, 4 hour, or even daily levels, and you say, well, if it goes below that, it's over, it's done, forget about it. It's like, not really. Honestly, Sol can go all the way back down to below 140 and be perfectly fine. Just a weekly higher low, nothing to panic about. And then you can either get you can either tighten up, flag out, and rip, or you can just, in this case, because this is kind of a shallow pump, you can have a shallow dip. You're talking about the 618 on Ripple would be kind of devastating in the short term. Sol didn't pump enough, so if this comes all the way down to 618, I think you could just do the slow walk up. But the real problem for Sol has just been trapped in this range since early 24, early 24, late 2023. So this thing has just done nothing for 2 years. So I don't love it. I don't love it against. I haven't looked at it against ETH recently, I guess, but I don't think it looks great against ETH. So yeah, kind of just choppy. But don't love Sol too much. Don't hate it either. And I have the same opinion towards ETH. We talked about how the next target, we talked about last week, how the next target would be up in this triple top. We pretty much hit it and failed. Got front run a little bit, but massively outperformed what you'd expect on this range breakout, which is a bullish sign. You'd expect this to have stalled here and outran. I guess all this to say I'm kind of rambling and I don't have any clear, decisive call here. And sometimes that's just the nature of the beast. But my general overarching call is just if Bitcoin holds this flag, I'm still just as bull as I was last week. I still think we're going to absolutely full send this summer. And if Bitcoin breaks down, then you really have to start looking at your deeper levels on your alts that you might be in. For me, that's XRP. And so for me, again, this daily B-band is going to come up aggressively over the next couple days. And if you do get a Bitcoin breakdown, again, I would just say don't panic. Remember, we know this level here, 2.4 is the POC of this whole range. We know the daily B-band is going to rise, and we know we're between the 786 and the 618. So if Bitcoin breaks down, this is where I'm wanting to not panic on XRP. This is a nasty, nasty dip. I'm not saying this is my base case. I actually don't think it's going to come down here, pending a huge Bitcoin collapse, which it's not collapsing as of now. So, but if it does, this is not anything to really panic about. That was the other thing I realized last night before I went to bed when I realized I should have sold more than 10% when I realized this, but that's the case with trading. It's just very hard. But yeah, this can just come all the way down here and either come back up and make a big high or tighten up like we said. So I'm pretty bullish on this no matter what, but I just think maybe you really have to temper your expectations that Bitcoin can't hold this low. I do think Bitcoin has a little bit of breathing room. Maybe if you want to scam these lows here, and here. Oh, that was the wrong tool. If you want to scam this low and come down to this 26 EMA, sure. If it's a quick scam and right back up, I'm okay with that. But anything below 114-ish, 115-ish, to me, that's a big red flag. And at that point, I'd really expect alts to dump pretty hard. Really quick, I'll touch on metals. They are bullish. So I guess there's not much to say, really, other than just been talking about gold and silver and platinum for anyone that's really, since I linked up with Forrest a year or two ago, anyone that's kind of been following my calls since joining Sistine, I've just been all over this, and I just don't think this is going to stop. We're kind of in an air gap on silver, so you have one somewhat insignificant high here, but there's not a lot of volume traded up here, and there's not a lot of resistance, so I kind of expect, honestly, silver to run up near the 45-50 level and then cool off. I'm hoping to have a crypto pump so that silver can kind of run to 50, maybe flag out, while crypto run mega bull, and then I can put all my money into silver for the real breakout on silver. No matter what, if silver gets to 50 and flags out, I'm going to put all my money into it. So I really hope crypto can get kind of off its ass and pump for my sake, for my personal rotation sake. And I know Forrest wants a similar rotation. Gold, big flag, trying to break out, hasn't confirmed. Not much to talk about here. The thing that's interesting to me on metals is actually not metals versus dollar, it's metals versus crypto. So this is Bitcoin versus gold. This looks mega bull. I mean, this looks insanely bull. I remember we were talking about Bitcoin versus Apple having a somewhat similar pattern, but Bitcoin hasn't actually made an all-time high since the 2020 bull against real money, against gold. So you have one high, two highs, 3, 4, and then, I'm hoping that we don't have to come down and make a 5th and then kind of do this. But it's absolutely possible. We said the same thing on Bitcoin versus Apple, how we wanted it to break out. And this was dating back to like last year, if you will listen to Farsign's Twitter space. This could absolutely do a similar thing, unfortunately. I really don't want it to, but I think this is set up a little bit better in the short term. But this can absolutely fail here. And again, I guess the main theme here is just that crypto can fail and still be bullish, where all the calls on price can still be true, and just the hope that it was going to happen this summer might be wrong. Maybe this bleeds into fall, winter, maybe this bleeds into 2026 even. Maybe even into late 2026, depending on how much chop we get. I don't want that to be the case. I want to get rich quick, not rich slow, but I think no matter what, the big thing for me is crypto is going to make us rich, but it's going to be a timing thing. So last thing I'll say on metals is just this still continues to look good. We talked about this a couple weeks ago in the space. This is gold versus silver, and this goes all the way back to the 40s, I guess, technically, but really the price action in detail starts in the 90s, and you have some pretty obvious taps here at 100 to 1. You deviated for COVID, and then you came right back to the 100 to 1 level from the 90s, and you can see, this is decades where silver is not that cheap against gold. So this looks really good. I'm long as fuck silver. The only reason I'm not all in my whole net worth into silver is like we were just talking about, because of the crypto thing where I want crypto to run first. But the last chart, so this looks really good. I think this is screaming to be in silver over gold, although I do own both. Last chart I'll talk about is the most important chart of all, which is this sort of ugly falling wedge on silver versus Bitcoin. If this breaks out, again, I'm going to have to just give up on crypto because I'm not missing the silver pump to sit around coping about fucking choppy Bitcoin. Sorry for the language. You can tell I'm a little frustrated with the crypto price action today. So if you guys are, you're not alone. But yeah, this is like an ugly wedge. I mean, I don't love it. You could pull this in a little more, consider this to be a deviation here, and it looks a little better. Whatever you want to call this, a channel, a wedge, whatever it is to you, it's some type of constriction. And honestly, I lean this breaking up, unfortunately, which would mean silver more bullish than Bitcoin. If silver is more bullish than Bitcoin, I have a hard time believing that altcoins are going to be more bullish than platinum or copper or whatever. I just think it'll be a metals, really just a metals only season. So I hope not. My hope here maybe is that we do get the silver pump to 50, and then this kind of goes like this, something like that. It's very hard to predict. This pattern's been, again, this started in 2018, so this is more just something to keep an eye on. I don't have really the super definitive call on it. So, sometimes TA is less about trying to predict the future and more about just setting your game plan for if then, bull, bear, neutral, and then you're just not, in a panic state or in shock when the bull bear happens. You have your levels and you know what you're going to do and you're going to react. But for right now, I don't have any definitive calls beyond that. So with that, I will get to your tickers. Excuse me, I may be catching a cold here. IONet, okay. Let's check out IONet, never heard of it. IO.net. Weird name. .net is like a coin. You launched a coin in 1997. Rocking the .net. This looks very bad. Yeah. I always hate to say that about the tickers because I always feel like people put the tickers in because they might own it, but this looks pretty terrible. Just a huge drop and then a bear flag potentially to lower lows. Obviously, this could reverse too. Low, lower high, higher low, lower high. So, by the same token, maybe you'll get a flag and this will be the first move up. But by no means would I be in this. Again, I always say this caveat that maybe you know something fundamentally, maybe you know some insider info I don't have, but just based on the chart, there's just so many better. Yeah, thanks again. Yeah, smash the like button so Mag doesn't feel cringy asking. I know. Very, very true. I hate asking because it is just super cringe, but it does help. So, what is this spam? I'll have to figure out how to remove the spam. I'm new to this whole streaming thing. Hey, we're growing. If we have spammers in the live chat, I guess that's a good vibe. That's worth spamming to them, I suppose. Yeah, stairs up, elevator down. Yeah, on Ripple. Ripple was kind of elevator up, elevator down, but rough day. Jasmine, I think we talked about this last week. Similar to some of the other coins that I looked at, I didn't even get into today, the Popcats and whatnot, where you're looking for a monthly trend change. Didn't do it yet, so this is still in a holding pattern where you got your low. Oh, I keep accidentally clicking the wrong tool. You got your low, high, higher low, almost a higher high, but not quite. So this one looks a bit better than the last one. I would probably more so lean towards this squiggle than the breakdown squiggle, but again, it's just so far from all-time highs. It has so much resistance to work through. It wouldn't be my first choice. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but wouldn't be my first choice. Turbo, I think we did last week too, but we can check it out again. Turbo, similar, but looks even better. Popped a slightly higher high. You know, high, higher low, slightly higher high, no follow through. You can zoom in a little bit for detail. Daily 9 right there at the top. So we like to see that. So we wouldn't have been chasing in. Yeah, I mean, this is another coin where I just don't have a ton to say. It's just in a holding pattern. It's tightening up. Any high, you know, what I would really expect for this to do is just keep bleeding out. And again, it comes down to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin can hold, then this will probably do something like this and break out. If it doesn't hold, then it'll do the same exact shit, only it'll just break down. I mean, I know it's not amazing like TA or whatever, but some of these charts just are too neutral to have a strong opinion. I lean more bullish on Turbo than bearish, but again, I'm just not in love with it. She's a ledger. What is this? Loop ring. Oh man, I remember this is a 2017 gem, right? Loop ring. I think I remember this from way back when. I think I owned the loop ring back in 2017. So there must be more price data somewhere. So I remember holding it back then. Maybe it was a 2020 thing. I can't find more price data. It looks terrible though. Yeah, there's a little more price data. This doesn't make it look any better. I mean, this looks very, very, very bad. Unlike those other coins where, again, not just to shit on the coin, just explain why I don't like it. Just like those other coins were doing stuff like this, where it was, you know, low, high, higher low, and then trying maybe for a higher high, and then worst case it comes down and makes a higher low, and then you look for a flag. In this case, it's just showing the weakness of, you know, you have a high, a low, lower high, so you think, oh, maybe it'll come down and make that flag, or nope, lower low, and then bounce, lower high, lower low, lower high. So I would just expect lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, until it changes. So you'll know when this is bullish when the trend changes. So basically you'll know instead of keeps doing lower high, lower low, if it comes down, makes a higher low here compared to this low. I mean, even what I just did is squiggle, where you kind of get that inverse head and shoulders, and then you get your breakout. But this coin is like nowhere near that. So yeah, I wouldn't go nowhere near that with a 10-foot pole personally. And then if you compare this to anything else, like including, you know, the safer coins, Bitcoin, ETH, it'll look even worse because Bitcoin and ETH have been uptrending. So when you have a coin that's a smaller cap, that's riskier, and it's, you know, going down against the safer coins, like you might as well just be in the safer coins because there's less downside and you're getting more upside. Even though in theory you'd think maybe these smaller coins would have more upside. In this case, you know, it's pending a miracle. It's not gonna do much. Yeah. Sol 140 buy would be nice. Platinum doesn't pull back. Yeah, really quick on that, because it has been pretty brutal if you're not in. Just real quick, the levels I'll be looking for is, again, smart money view up. It's always what I like. So the breakout level here, and then the secondary would be if the smart money, if you didn't get in on the breakout, smart money would have bought there. So that gives us, what am I doing? Just to make the lines easier to see. That would give you 115 on PPLT, and then 120 lines up with the daily B band. So if this does crash the next few days, which it might, it does look like it's kind of rolling over and some nasty bear div, this is where I'd want to buy. So you have the green line here is the top of the, not this green line. This green line shouldn't exist. This green line is because trading is adding weird shit unannounced that no one wants. But this other green line here is the daily B band, and then this white line is your secondary smart money go up. So really anywhere between 120 and 115, I'd like to buy PPLT. I'll re-add. I took a little bit of profit on PPLT, and I'll re-add it there if we get it. Sui. Man, this was one I fumbled. I was all over Sui in the very beginning of this bull market back in like 2013 when it was just starting to show life. And I just lost sight of it. This looks pretty good, although yeah, unsurprisingly that I screwed myself on this because I was bullish on it like here. And then I got washed out, and then I just kind of forgot about it, and then it mooned. Similar to what we were talking about on the other coins, this one is almost even cleaner, though, because you have a high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high. So I would expect this to come down here, and like we were talking about before, for me, it's very simple. I'm fibbing this type of thing out if I'm not in it and I want to be in it, which this looks decent. I mean, this isn't the most bullish coin, but it's certainly not the worst I've seen. I would just look to buy, I would look to buy, somewhere down here. Maybe the 50% fib, maybe the 618. Watch the daily V band again. This is, if I'm looking for dip buys, I'm looking for confluence. So maybe you get something like this in a few days, where the daily V band runs into the 618, and then you're, like you say, well, why do you want to just blindly buy it there? It's just you're looking for that higher low compared to here. So if it does come down here, you can buy it here at say $3. Maybe it runs the $3. Something you see a lot in trading is if you have a round number like 3 in this case, you'll go just below it. You'll kind of scan below it, make everyone that thought 3 was going to be the bottom, and the 3 lines up perfectly with the 618. So maybe you kind of come down, scam, and then boom. So I'd look for something like that, and then you can either put your stop there, or if you're on like spot and you're on a smaller size and you're super confident in SUI, which I'm more kind of neutral, but never know if you have a better read than I do, then maybe you could put a deeper stop below there, and at least you're not getting totally screwed on your risk. Whereas even if you buy it here and you're risking 25% versus if you ape right here, you're risking 40. So pretty big difference on a spot trade, 40 to 25% stop. And then again, you can look for tighter stop, obviously, on the shorter time frame. Ripple we already talked about. So if you just go back earlier on in the video, you could we'll talk about Ripple, but TLDR is just that this is a good spot to bounce for me, 3.1. We could go a little lower. We went to 3.15. 3.1 was my level. I even drew a smart money view up. I guess I didn't choose the right exchange. I don't know which. Yeah. So white line down here at 3.11. So really around 3.1 round number, and then same thing as we were just talking about on SUI. Maybe Ripple even squirts down to 3 round number, which lines up perfectly with the 382. You get a little flush below, and then back up. That's what I'd want to see. Anything lower than like 2.89, like anything lower than here on Ripple, big red flag. Especially, but again, it really comes down to Bitcoin. That was the main thing I was forgetting to add is, and what we talked about in the beginning of the video is just, it really comes down to Bitcoin. Charting Ripple is kind of tough right now because even though I like the support, anywhere between right here and like I said, just above 3, I kind of like that support a lot on a shorter time frame. If Bitcoin breaks down, it doesn't matter what support I like. You can just throw all your altcoin supports right in the trash if Bitcoin starts heading back down to 100K or lower. So I would keep an eye on Bitcoin. If you are bullish on Bitcoin and you get a read that it's going to hold, I think we're near the bottom on XRP, but we can definitely score a little lower, down towards $3. I wouldn't want to see much below that though. AVAX, render, I do have to run in a minute, so if I don't get to everyone's tickers, I apologize. We can do them next week. AVAX. Yeah, I think we talked about this last week. Similar story to a lot of these coins, just trying to do the weekly trend change, but hasn't done it yet. High, lower high, higher low, and again, pending Bitcoin, I'd kind of expect something like this. And if Bitcoin breaks down, this is quick. But again, this is one of those coins where like, yeah, it can absolutely moon. And again, and I always caveat saying maybe something I don't know, but like, and you could even maybe kind of sort of argue this is like a little bit of a flag or a falling wedge, but it's just still, you still have so much resistance. You're still nowhere near all-time high, whereas if Ripple holds its low and pumps, this thing has to do a 5x just to get back to where you were in 2020. So, 5x to get back to where you were in 2020, or you're already above that level on Ripple. You're way above that level on Bitcoin. So, and a lot of times people say, oh, yeah, so I already missed that. Like, sometimes catch-up trades work, sometimes laggard plays work, but usually you want to be in relative strength. You don't want to just be in something that's dog shit because, oh, look, it hasn't pumped yet. It's like, yeah, usually it hasn't pumped yet for a reason because it sucks. Or, it doesn't necessarily suck versus the dollar, but it sucks relative to its peers. So it's like, why not just be in Ripple instead? Obviously not financial advice. Again, maybe something I don't know. Render. Hard to have a read on this, to be honest. Gut feeling is that it's bullish. Not running away bullish, but bullish. This Could be argued that it's sort of a drawn out flag off of this very big flagpole. Let's check the fib on this wick low to wick high. You did come down perfectly to the 786 and hold it. So looking at this as just a pole and a flag, could do a lot worse. Doesn't look bad. Don't hate it. Looks like it's a tough one to trade. So personally, I probably wouldn't bother with it. But if you have a read on it, I think it looks good. For me, you really have to be able to risk a lot. Yeah, I mean, even buying it right here and risking this localized low is 40% drop. And then if you're, that's a pretty deep dip. And at that point, you really have nothing to go off of. You really have to stop, because at that point, it's probably not a flag and it's probably breaking down. So I think it looks good. Actually, pretty bullish, but also pretty tricky. So unless you have a read on it fundamentally or something, wouldn't really jump into it. Then this just looks pretty dead. Base of support here, so you are holding this level. It's kind of being held up. You could risk off this level. Again, if you have a read on this, I've never heard of it. TA wise, I don't love it. Similarly, you could cope and say it's a flag, a pole and a flag, but like, I don't know. It looks more just like a dead coin, to be honest. It just hasn't had any volatility in several years. So while crypto's mooning and stuff, like for instance, this was the election pump here. Yeah, I don't know. This was the election. The pumps are so negligible on this coin. Yeah, this was the election. This is when people thought like, oh, there's going to be a XRP reserve and blah, blah, blah. This is what like max hype and hope. And this coin couldn't even break the high from the prior year. So don't like it. Might eat my words on that one if there's fundamentals or news there, but don't love it. Likes, if you guys don't mind pressing the like button. I'm going to head out in a minute. I'll try to get to a few more of these before I go. Silver is bullish. I agree. No doubt. Mo-Chen, thanks for modding. Thanks for the assistance. Doge. Is Doge different from XRP here? Let's see. Doge. This is another one. I think we talked last week about how I just kind of suck at trading Doge, but this one did do the trend change on the weekly, so this one is more bullish than some of the other ones where you have the higher low and then you broke the higher high pattern. No follow through, obviously. But this I still think is going to creep up. So maybe this does have a deep dip and then makes another slightly higher high. This is like a creeper to me. I think we talked about that last week too. How exactly it does it, I don't know, but I kind of think this is going to be a slow, choppy one until it gets back up here all the way at the high. And then you're talking cup and handle. Then you're talking cup. Assuming this does come back up here, right? And you're talking cup, handle, and then you're talking total moonshot, $5 Doge, easily. But that's in a mega bull, and that's if it does it. And then you mentioned XRP, so I'm kind of curious, actually. I always like to compare major versus major. And you see this looks like, it looks pretty bad against XRP. So what that would tell me is, although this is very choppy too, Doge is it's a tough one for me. If Doge isn't mooning, I'm not the best at trading it. But this looks pretty bad against XRP. Maybe you come down, visit this support here. So maybe you come down here, and then that's when you get your cup and handle breakout. TLDR though, and is the same on a lot of these coins. I'd rather be in Ripple for now. I just think it's so much closer. If we're gonna absolutely moon, if Bitcoin can actually get its shit together and hold, this is just so much more primed and closer than Doge or a lot of these other alts. So don't hate Doge. I think it's bullish. And I think in a crypto bull, it might actually have another total insane mega move. But I'd be very surprised. Pending news that happens right now. BNB, yeah. I remember someone brought up BNB a couple of weeks ago in here, and I was saying how I suck at trading it, but it looks really, really good. So sure enough, I didn't trade it, and it pumps. And this is one of the better looking coins. I don't trade it. Like I said, it's just something about it. Feels manipulated to me, which again, if it's manipulated to go up, kind of like the S&P 500, people always say, oh, it's manipulated, it's a scam, it's rigged. It's like, all right, if it's rigged to go up, then wouldn't you want to be long? Like, isn't that a good thing? That's kind of how BNB is for me. I feel like this coin is straight up rigged. The price action always feels unnatural and weird to me. It always feels like it has these like unlimited bids at support where it's like any other coin would have at least ran the low, but BNB doesn't do it. Similarly here. But again, all that's just conspiracy bullshit. At the end of the day, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher high. So this coin just looks great. If I was in it, I would not sell it. I would just hold it. It's a tough one for me on like margin. It's tough because it's a really slow mover. It hasn't really done much of anything, really. I mean, it hasn't barely broke its 2020 all-time high. Although I guess a lot of altcoins haven't done that. I guess more so the reason I say that is because it didn't do much during the election either. It just like kind of doesn't pump and doesn't dump. So this is like super safe if you trust CZ and Binance, I guess. Probably the safest coin to own because it just grinds up. I think the TA looks great. I mean, I should stop coping about all the excuses that I'm not long. It's bullish. Congrats to you if you're long. I'm cucked. I'm coping. it's bullish. So congrats on the BNB holders there. Perp's a coin. Oh, I think I remember this one too. Looks terrible. Yeah, this just looks like a total disaster. You know, you could say like, oh, there's a range here, and this could be a deviation, and you pop back into the range, retest the bottom of it. If you get something like that, you know, I'll try to draw it a little better. If you get something like that, sure, right, sure. But overall, this looks like shit. So if you know, again, I feel like a broken record. If you know something about this coin that leads you to believe this is a deviation, then hey, cool. But even still, I wouldn't long it here. I would still wait for it to blast back into the range, buy it on this, you know, or if it looks like it's not going to do that, you know, if it's high and tight, you know, buy it here even with a stop below here. Buying it here, though, is just there's nowhere to risk because there's not even any support. You're at all-time low. You just made it the lowest price ever, so it could deviate. But the other thing that could happen is a lot of times traders will look for the deviation. But you know what else you might just get is a classic retest of the thing and just lower low. And considering this is coming off a huge dump, bear flag dump, I mean that's kind of what I would lean towards. So wouldn't touch this unless it did this. Then I would touch it. But down here, no. You're just begging to get chopped up, and then, you know, I guess you could put your stop loss down here, but I think you're just begging to get wrecked on that one. HBAR, XLM, Vet, Tron, and then I have to run, I think. HBAR, this is another one of those status coins, right? The Ripple, like big business coin. Looks really good. This is another one. It's like BNB almost that I just never managed to trade myself, but this just looks really good. How you just have high, higher, low. Oops, I don't know why I keep doing that today. High, higher, low, lower high, higher low, higher high. So you're just uptrending. Higher low. I would expect this to just keep making higher highs. I would never. I would not sell this. It's another slow mover, so it's tough for me to margin trade. I think that's why I don't end up ever trading these. XLM looks amazing in the long run. I know this is one Forrest absolutely loves, and I agree with him. With that said, I said last week that I thought it ran its course already. It's kind of proving that it did run its course. This, to me, I just view as XRP beta, though. So, yeah, you can draw your fibs, and you can draw... I'll try to find a smart money view app, maybe. Let's see if there even is one that's clear. Not really. I mean, it's just tough. I guess you could say this is where Forrest was telling me to buy, and I didn't listen, so I guess this is where he was buying. So I'll call that smart money. Forrest is smart money. And look at that. Right there. So... I don't know. I mean, this is a kind of tougher because, yeah, I guess that's smart money right there. I guess that qualifies. So, similarly to Ripple, how you're coming up on the smart money level, you're coming up on XLM. But kind of like how I say that charting XRP even is almost pointless for me right now because I think it's at a good. It's not pointless, right? Because we determine that this is a good spot to buy if Bitcoin turns around. But similarly to how I'm watching Bitcoin to see if Ripple's worth buying, I'd be watching Ripple to see if XLM is worth buying. So you kind of have to work up the chain. We really need Bitcoin to be bullish. I mean, the hope for next week is that we are above 130. So we've had good luck with these predictions. I don't know if I'm calling it a prediction, but let's at least be up here. If Bitcoin's up there, then I'm feeling very, very good about all these alts. All these alts I'm feeling good about. Vet priced in Weber. Is Weber a thing? Weber, be better. I don't know. I'll do vet. I will do vet. Sometimes this stuff I'm like boomer in crypto. This is that old chain. I mean, this looks similar to that other one we were talking about. Just someone's bidding it down here, I guess. But I mean, this coin has done absolutely nothing since, you know. If you, general rule of thumb, if I can't even find the 2024 election pump on the chart, I'm not that interested. You know, my broken record caveat, maybe you know something I don't know. Maybe this does moon, but relative to all these other coins, it just looks so much better. Bitcoin, and even like, you know, even Sol I'd rather be in, even ETH I'd rather be in. And I don't even love Sol and ETH here. I think if we do get a deeper dip, Sol and ETH are positioned pretty poorly because ETH didn't make a ton of support on the way up, didn't break its resistance, although it did change the weekly trend, didn't change the monthly trend. So these coins I think are positioned poorly, but the coins like VET I think are positioned even worse, because the problem with those coins like VET and the other one is if you break that support that it has, it's kind of just like it's going to zero. I mean, this coin is dead. So if you don't think it's dead, again, I guess you could risk off these levels, call it a rounded bottom. Maybe it absolutely moons. In a bull market, I bet this thing will pump, but in a bull market, I bet other stuff will pump even more. Silver versus Bitcoin, we talked about it, but I'll go over it really, really quick, and that'll be the last one for today. Any other ticker requests we can do next week, and always you can check out the towns. If you do join the towns, there's no ref links right now, so maybe let Forrest know that I sent you, Mag sent you. Do me a favor, but yeah, this chart here is the most interesting one to me. Is silver versus Bitcoin, or I'll even do it Bitcoin versus silver. Just show it as a rising wedge, and I don't love this. I gotta say, I think this looks like not good. So not good means that silver is going to outperform Bitcoin, because this Bitcoin will break down against silver, in theory. But this looks like a rising wedge to me. I don't want to call it either way until it breaks, because it's kind of 50-50. You have a high, a low, lower high, higher low, lower high. So this is getting very tight. You could make an aggressive entry where this breaks, where if you get if you get above or below these levels here, this would be the really aggressive entry, where if it goes above here, then you're calling it a bull versus silver, even though you run the risk of running right into the top of that. And your aggressive entry, obviously, to the other side would be down here, if you want to sell your Bitcoin for silver here. But again, you run into the risk of running to the bottom of the wedge. So those are aggressive entries. I think at the end of the day, we kind of just have to wait and see on this wedge and see where it breaks. But gun to my head, honestly, I think this looks kind of shitty, like it's going to break down. I would much rather Bitcoin outperform silver, though, because I want crypto to pump first, so I can roll my money into silver and just, it's so slam dunk obvious if we get a big crypto pump to sell it for silver. What is a lot more confusing and hard to deal with is if we get a silver pump, and then what I kind of think we are going to get, by the way, and this is like the last thing I'll say, I kind of think that wedge is going to break down, or in this case break up, and then not have a ton of follow through, because I think what might happen is you're going to have silver run the next couple of months up to this resistance at 50. And if crypto is chopping, or God forbid dipping during this time, then you're going to see that pair break down for Bitcoin. Then if this gets choppy and flags, then maybe this is where I think, it's very possible that we get this mega bull crypto that we want in 2026. As much as I hate to say that, I'm not saying that's my base case. But you really have to consider everything. No one wants things to chop and be slow. And just like back here, any of these big chop zones, this is... the month. I remember this was just so brutal. This was like a full year. This was like several months. And you always think like, oh, it can't possibly go on longer. I can't keep shopping. Like, it can always keep shopping. So if silver runs to 50, maybe we get that breakdown, and then maybe you get the kind of alternate rotation where if silver does come up to 50 and crypto hasn't done anything, and then silver shows like a clear sign of slowing down, like it's going to do a multi-month flag, and then break out, then maybe you just have to be long. So I'm long both, by the way. I don't know how you guys are playing it. Obviously not financial advice. I'm long both. I'm long silver and crypto. I'm just longer crypto than I am silver, because I'm hoping for the rotation to be crypto to silver. But what it might be is you might get silver pump, rotate to crypto, then rotate back to silver for the real breakout in late 26, 27, which is what I think is going to happen. So maybe this is your crypto bull, and maybe we just have the timing wrong. And maybe this flag here on silver is where we get the bull season. So maybe it's late 25, early 2026, and then we rotate to silver at the end of 2026. And the rest of 25 is just going to be kind of brutal and choppy in crypto. And the only good trade is maybe silver to 50. So something to consider. Again, I know this week I don't have S 100%. Oh, I'm so sure because I don't like bullshitting and I don't like making calls that I don't need to make and then end up being wrong. When I'm really confident about something, like I was really confident about platinum and I told the whole world I'm really fucking confident platinum's going to pump. You know, I'm way less confident about stuff, so I'd rather just be honest with that and say I'm not 100% sure. And again, the key isn't to always know exactly what's going to happen next because that would be impossible anyway. We're not fortune tellers. The key is just to have a game plan for all this stuff. So that's why these things are even useful to me because it forces me to go over it. Something else, I'll leave it on this too. Yeah, silver is the first. Yeah. No, you might be right. You might be right, my friend. Silver is proving that it's first. But again, maybe just to 50, and then we rotate to crypto. But the last thing I'll say too is just something else to do, and something I've been trying to hold myself to is, just like doing these streams is good for me because I'm forced to go over everything. Write notes. To me, handwritten notes in particular are very valuable. But even if you type up a Word document once a week I do it every week at the weekly close. Excuse me, and I'm trying to get myself to do it every single day because what made me realize even that Ripple was probably running out of steam last night at midnight was that I was doing my daily notes. I just didn't do them earlier, and if I had done those same notes at 8 p.m. instead of at midnight, I would have sold a lot more Ripple, saved myself a lot of money, and even being bullish, I could have reloaded for a 10% increase on my stack at no cost. So silver has a cap, miners will process risk. Yeah, no, nothing ever has a cap. Once price gets going, Once silver's over 50, it doesn't matter. They could have a surplus of silver above ground, and as long as there's a narrative, there'll be some type of narrative, some type of BS narrative, and that'll drive it. So, I mean, Dogecoin pumped in 2020. It wasn't because there was like a Dogecoin shortage, but anyway, with that, I will leave it at that. If you don't mind pressing the like button, really appreciate that. Check out the sponsor, Weex. Yeah, I put my ref link in the chat box. It should also be in the description of the video. Please press like on the way out the door, and if you like this content, I will be back next week, same time, Wednesday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. Good luck out there on the charts, and don't forget to take your notes. Peace.